Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. First and foremost, before we get this epistle started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to our beloved Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, our beloved and Savior, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harachak Wadash. Double honor as always to our beloved elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, who we learn the truth from daily, whether you hear for bear, and a sincere citation is always to the rest of the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, which consists of our sincere elders and Akim of Great Millstone and the Akim on down, that teach the likewise doctrine and all truth and sincerity with diligence. The speckled bird Hebrew Israelite foreigners scattered among the heathen, that look like the heathen, the sincere Akim of the nation of Israel that rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai in truth and sincerity, and the sincere Akwath that listen in silence and meekness as the scriptures command to do so. And this is just a quick video touching upon the mentality of Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of, in case you certain brothers don't know yet. All right, for you new believers. All right, and this video is done by Antonio Speaks. Okay. Yeah, so it was a particular point in the video that I wanted to touch upon that point first. And I'm going to also play the video. I'll play the video from the exact starting point, but the main point I wanted to touch upon is in the 2-minute mark. So I'm going to play it real quick, and Adawan Ratazah, I'll get the scriptures, and Adawan Ratazah is edifying and straight to the point to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. All right, so fair use.
White man! Fight back! 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 White man! Fight back!
White men actually think they losing the country. To who? White men trying to overthrow the government that they run.
Yeah, so I kind of found that funny. I don't really care for Chris Rock, but he made a funny point right there. Essentially, yeah, these Edomites, they are fighting what they believe to be a racial war, but it's really a civil war. They're going to make it racial because ultimately Jake, which is short for Jacob, our forefather, whose name was changed to Israel, and it also applies to his descendants, the true biblical Hebrew Israelites being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and speckled bird Israelite foreigners, which make up the 12 tribes of Israel. 2/3 of our people are docile as hell. Like, not to say that the 1/3 is hostile. No, we're basically peaceable. We're all a peaceable people. We're in the land of our oppressor in the worst captivity ever. And all Jake really want to do is drink, eat, and, go fishing and basic stuff for the most part. Not talking about the 2/3, but even the 2/3, they got a limit to their wickedness. For the most part, Jake just wants to be left alone. All right. Even the wicked 2/3, they're not going out on no big racial riots and stuff like that. Nah. But Esau is going to make an enemy out of Jake because he has a perpetual hatred. So while the country has been divided because of this whole Democrat-Republican nonsense, now even MAGA, which is right-wing, which is Republican, is divided amongst themselves because of the leadership of DJT. But because Esau has a perpetual hatred for Jacob, all right, he's going to come down with great wrath, knowing that he had but a short time. And within that also, like Chris Rock is saying, they basically they think that they're losing their country, but look at what they're doing. He said to who? To themselves. But this is why the scriptures speak about a hypocrite, man. A sinful man will not be reproved. Okay? And let's get that. As a matter of fact, yeah. Let me get that real quick. Proverbs 29 verse 1, and it reads, "He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed in that without remedy." Yeah, so ultimately we already know Esau is not known, even in the world, when you still keep calling him white, which he's not white, he's red. All right, when you keep dealing with him in the world, you know that he doesn't like to be told what to do. He can play it off, but Esau don't like to be wrong. He's not man enough to be able to take that the embarrassment, the shame of being wrong. Nah, Jake has to take that all the time. And even when Jake is right, we got to take the shame of being wrong, which is a part of being the truth. You suffer wrongfully. All right, but this is why he's going to be suddenly destroyed, because the Lord's going to put the spirit on him to not take heed to wise counsel. The Lord wants him destroyed because he's wicked. He doesn't deserve to repent and receive the benefits of taking heed to wise counsel. He doesn't deserve to not fall into the pit. Verse 2, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." And people are mourning right now, even his own people. And that's a telltale sign that his kingdom is coming to an end. When your people don't want to deal with you, and you set up a whole society where they're supposed to be able to thrive racially, that's a telltale sign that you're not fit to be a leader. You see? Let's get this real quick. Proverbs the 29 verse 3, whoso loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father. Right, and if you get into the history, Esau and Jacob's father was Isaac. We have the same forefather by way of the flesh, but we're not the same. Only Jacob truly embodies who Isaac was. All right, only Jacob received that blessing that the Heavenly Father placed upon Abraham, then upon Isaac. It was placed upon Jacob and his 12 sons, not Esau. All right. And it says, but he that keepeth company with harlots spendeth his substance. And ultimately, the harlots right here in the spirit is talking about the philosophies. Esau, he has taken on all of the harlots of the heathen nations that ruled before him. All right. The Hamites being the so-called Africans. Okay. And the other different neighboring nations that was close to Israel and Edom geographically in the ancient world, such as Moab, Ammon. All right. Moab being the so-called Chinese, Ammon being the so-called Japanese. Okay. All these other different wicked empires, the Greeks, the Romans. All right, I'm talking about the Japhites that were originally inhabited those lands as the Greeks and Romans before Esau. All right, all these different nations Esau takes from the idolatry that they follow, and he mutates it and he puts it up as if he's better than the Most High. Okay, so his substance is his rulership. He's going to spend it up because wickedness is going to destroy his nation. Verse 4, the king by judgment establisheth the land, but he that receiveth gifts overthrow it. Yeah, so by judgment, you have to actually follow the ways that Yahweh Bashmiel Shai gave. But to show you the Lord is not dealing with the Edomite bloodline, he didn't give Esau the law of life for inheritance. He didn't give Esau the blueprint on how to rule eternally through Yahweh Shai. He's not dealing with Esau. Okay? Now, I'm going to get a little bit more on this clip right here.
Government that they run. White men actually think they losing the country. To who? White men trying to overthrow the government that they run.
So as we all know by now, Charlie Kirk got put on a shirt. He up out of here. And in response to that, there has been a lot of protests going around America. Young white men are tired and they're fighting back. They are done being oppressed.
Yeah, it's like that phrase doesn't even come right. It doesn't even sound right coming out of anybody's mouth. Everybody knows that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. The so-called white man is not oppressed. And if he is being oppressed, he's being oppressed by his own people because his system is airtight. When I say airtight, I mean it is airtight as far as ensuring that no Edomite will ever be oppressed by any other nation of people, especially by an Israelite. Okay? So if you have an Edomite that feels like he's being oppressed because he's not financially up, that's his own people oppressing him. This system is literally hardwired and calibrated to ensure that the Edomite wins. So if he doesn't win, if he's not succeeding, if he's not getting the women that he wants, it's because the Lord is not dealing with him. It's simply because he is in bad case. It's simply because his own people don't care about him or because he's not applying himself. But now these Edomites are feeling the squeeze that Jake was feeling because the Lord says the curses that we experience, he's going to put them upon our enemies. So now, yeah, these Edomites do have to experience poverty. They do have to experience having their time wasted on the job. They do have to experience their women wanting to deal with other men, especially wanting to deal with the Israelite man, the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American man. Which brings me to the clip that I said I wanted to skip to. Yeah, yeah, right here. All right, so bros pretty much can establish where this is going.
Point today about young white men in this generation. I'm going to talk about how they are extremely lonely and have this weird infatuation with saving the white race.
Race mixing was illegal up until 2002. You're going to give up 50,000 years of evolution if you mix up with this dude. No, you realize that race mix, it's going to give up 50,000 years of your evolution, right? Literally, you're just throwing down your genetic line.
Yeah, you see the Edomite girl right here. You see she looking at Esau on the camera talking all this whatever, talking all this hoopla. She like, man, she just trying to get hit. She ain't trying to hit nothing. And Jake like, yeah. Nigga, like, bro, Esau is cooked. And the elders and the brothers be saying it, man. Like, especially Elder Jeremiah from GMS Chicago. You know that a nation is done by how they women is moving, bro. Once you lose your women, all right, your nation is cooked. You can tell that's, bro, like, these Edomites may have better opportunities than Jake, but similar to how Yahweh Bashmiel Shai likes a good underdog story, Women kind of like that too, to a degree. Like, we understand women are hypergamous, all right, and they are. But because, you know, the Lord is heightening the spirit in these last days to a degree, not saying that these women know prophecy, but they can sense masculinity. They can smell it. It's like they're literally designed to smell and sense masculinity. They can tell what men is on the rise and what men are on the decline. And they can tell the Edomite man's stock is going down and the Israelite man's stock is going up. So you see, while Esau is basically trying like a lame, like I said in the previous video, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Al-Shai, Esau is the original Dirty Mac. He's sitting right here he's literally trying to cock block Jake from smashing Esau. And it's like, look, bro, that's like trying to stop water from coming out of a collapsed dam, bro. You're not, you're not stopping that. These Edomite women, they want to get smashed by Jake. And that video, a video similar to the one that brother was talking about, is also in this clip as well. So I'm going to keep playing it.
Much you're just LARPing. You're LARPing as a European in America.
I think having a black son would still totally be normal.
Wait, but let's say you were the last person who could have children in your bloodline. You would throw away 10,000 years of like pure blood for that?
Yeah, I think all blood is pure. You're being weird.
I just think about how
Pure. You're being weird.
I just think about how miserable and weird you gotta be to go up to a random person on the street and say, "Hey, rape."
Yeah, I think all blood is pure. You're being weird.
And that's the spirit that Yahweh Bashmi Al-Shai put on Esau's women. All right. Now, we understand that in the history, we're not saying to forget history. We understand that there were Edomite women that got Jake put to death just for whistling at him, this and that. But, at the same token, simultaneously, not putting one fact over the other, this is a sign that Esau is losing his kingdom. Now, there are other signs, so don't get simple, Jake. Don't get on the comment section like, oh, well, y'all just want to smash Edomite women. Well, first off, nigga, Israelite men can smash whatever women they want to smash as long as she doesn't already have a man. And second, the point is, once again, prophecy. You see? Esau's losing. He's so down bad that he's not passively attracting his women like he once did. Okay, what the Lord is showing us, when given the opportunity, even in slavery, the Edomite women, they were sneaking off to get smashed by Jake. That's why they wanted Jake so bad. All right, and some of them were just demons, but they wanted to smash Jake so bad over their own man that they would threaten Jake with death if Jake didn't smash. And then when they get found out, then Jake would get snitched on. But the point is, now in this environment, the Lord is putting the spirit on some of these actual, not just the Israelite women that look like Edomites, because both of those women in this video could be Edomites, but they just raised amongst them and look like them, so these Edomite men think that they're Edomites. But actual pure blood Edomite women want to deal with Jake and not just get smashed, not just the ones that actually fetishize Jake, because the Lord there's nothing new under the sun, man. The Lord is no stranger to making Edomite or Moabite or Ammonite or Hamite women actually adore Israelite men beyond the whole fetishes and stuff. So the so-called black woman and a lot of these pro-conscious simps, they can't just use the cop out of, oh, the heathen women fetishize you Israelite men because of the stereotype of you having a big rod. No, it's deeper than that. All right, Jake just naturally got aura. Jake just naturally got sauce, so to speak. You see? But Esau in his own kingdom, he's a lame, like money, like brothers used to say. All right, money can't, like, yeah, the bro Tazayar Banyamyan from GMS KC, he said that money can't unlame a lame, and it's true. Brothers that deal with women already know that. Like, yeah, you can work whatever job you got to have, whatever business you got, whatever thing you do to make your money. You may not be on a Jeff Bezos level, but you can pull more women than just Jeff Bezos without leading with money. You see, Esau's so much of a lame in his kingdom where you're supposed to just have that aura where women just gravitate towards you and basically throw themselves at you. He got to basically cock block other men. He got to basically pull race statistics out and sound lame as hell while doing it, just to try to stop Jake from getting boxed. But bro, that, like I said, man, that's you fighting a battle up a steep hill, bro. Let me get this real quick. Numbers chapter 24, verse 5. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the river's side, as the trees of lin aloes, which the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Al-Shai hath planted, and as the cedar trees beside the water. So basically the Lord's saying, look, man, Jake is a beautiful people, in appearance and personality, all right, especially when they're not being wicked, okay? And also Jake is a naturally fertile people. Because when you talk about the analogy, the parable, all right, of gardens by a riverside, the closer, the closer vegetation is to bodies of water, the more nutrients they receive. So the Lord is basically speaking about how he made Jake a real a vital people, a real virile people, you know? Starting with the men, because you are what your father is. Which leads me into verse 7. Numbers chapter 24, verse 7. He shall pour the waters out of his bucket. I'll read that once more. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. You see? So Jake pouring his water out of his buckets, and his seed being in many waters. Okay, waters are parabolic, talking about people, nations, kindreds, and tongues. So Jake is going to deal with every nation of woman that he likes. If Jake is around a nation of women, like our brothers that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, you got Jake's among the Polynesians, which are the Japhites. Jake's amongst these Hamites, which are the so-called Africans. Jake's amongst these Moabites, the so-called Chinese. Jake's amongst these Ammonites, the so-called Japanese. All right, Jake's amongst these different Edomites scattered throughout these European bloc nations and just so-called Europe in general. All right, so-called white people. Yeah, you got Jakes that look like these people because Israelite men laid with heathen women, and these Israelites' sons and daughters came out looking just like their mothers. But the Lord reckons them by who their father is because it's spiritual. That's why Esau has such penis envy for Jake, because he understands that once Jake lays with any woman, that child comes out an Israelite. And the Lord says his seed shall be higher than Agag, or his king shall be higher than Agag. Ultimately, our king is Yahweh Shai. Okay, Agag was the king of the Amalekites, which is the head tribe of the Edomites. Today, the Amalekites are the Jewish people, the ones that claim to be us in the Holy Land. And they're hogging all of the riches from the rest of their people, while also leading America into World War III. Call Halayim La Yahweh Bashmi Al Shah. All right, and his wickedness is exactly what's going to destroy his kingdom once again. All right, you have to be a righteous judge to actually establish a kingdom permanently, and Esau's not doing that. Okay, he may think that one thing doesn't lead to the other because he's carnal. He thinks that, well, I can mistreat my people. I'm still going to get women when I want to. Esau really wants little boys because he's weird like that. He wants animals and everything else because he's just a freak. But he thinks he's going to still maintain everything that he has because he doesn't see the immediate correlation to how wicked actions leads to the fall of an empire. You see? So I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, man. It gets interesting. I thought through the spirit this would be edifying. Let me get more.
Yeah, I think all blood is pure. You're being weird.
I just think about how miserable and weird you gotta be to go up to a random person on the street and say, hey, race mixing is bad. Now I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. Me personally, I love black women. My soon-to-be wife is a black woman. Now on the other hand, if you decide to dibble and dabble in other races, that's you. My only problem is that you do not have to down the other race to bring up another one. In today's day and age, black men get with white women and start bashing black women, and also black women get with white men and start bashing black men. That's a no-no. Now what seems to anger them the most is seeing a black woman with a white man. So we're on Twitter right now and it says, I'm beyond excited to be a mom. This picture is very self-explanatory. They're an interracial couple and they're expecting a baby. But like I stated, white men hate to see this coming. First comment, someone said, never bet on black. It's a photo of a white woman with a bruised eye.
This is what I wanted to show you. See, this is how much Esau hates you, Jakes. All right, this is the same tactic that he used in slavery, and I learned this early on when I was a child, and and reading about history. Esau would use this tactic where he would propagandize against Jake and make it seem like if a Edomite woman was caught by an Israelite man, all right, then he would try to grape her. And then the first thing I saw was in some animation where a so-called white woman, an Edomite woman, was by a cliff, and they basically had it where Jake was chasing her or something like that. And as opposed to, she was assuming that she was going to get graped by him, so she chose death, hopping off of a cliff, as opposed to being near a so-called Israelite man. Now, that was propaganda because in reality, with nothing new under the sun, once again, like the Lord has it written in Ecclesiastes 1:9, nothing new under the sun. They put that propaganda out there back then because Edomite women were already going out of their way to get smashed by Jake while Jake was on the plantation. You see? So that being said, how much more now that Jake is not physically on the plantation, that Jake is able to be around these women, interact with them, these women are able to feel the aura and everything else. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. How much more in poverty? Ecclesiasticus, better known as Sirach, chapter 10, and I'm going to get verse 30. And it reads, the poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. Right. And Jake is honored for his skill because, look, we don't have the riches. You got some Jake that have some riches, but you're not wealthy, is what I'm trying to say. But Esau is honored for his riches, not because he's actually blessed or talented. It's because the Lord gave him the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven and the sword to rule by, because that was his crybaby blessing. Okay, but Jacob is a natural born leader. Verse 31, he that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? You see, Jake was honored in poverty in the sense that, everybody knew who we were. That's why they were celebrating, because they knew that they had taken down the Israelites, the Lord's chosen people. They knew what great works we did over in so-called Europe, the Moorish Empire, stuff like that. Not to say that the Moors weren't going off, but the point is they understand that a lot of the architecture, their war tactics, their art, their music, their cuisine, okay, their laws of government, their philosophies, they got these different things from Jake. Wicked Jake, but that goes to show you that Jake, while wicked, meaning in our culture, when you're wicked, you actually are watered down. You're not at the highest height of power, like a king, like Yahweh Shai, like King David, like the 12 apostles, like Moses. You're not at that highest level of knowing all things and being able to just fully flourish. You flourish in the eyes of the heathen, but the Lord, he elevates his elect men on a higher level. But even while Jake was watered down with wickedness, they were doing way better things than Esau was doing. And then the northern kingdom over here in the Americas and in the Caribbean, all right, the northern kingdom where they Zebulon had indoor plumbing. Zebulon being the so-called today the Guatemalans, the Panamanians, but back then they were also known as the Mayans. They had indoor plumbing. All right, they dealt with the stars like Issachar, the so-called Mexicans, also known as the Aztecs. So all these different things, bro. We're not even in our kingdom yet, and we've been doing great this entire time. And the Lord, that was the watered down version. We weren't even in the full blessings, but the Lord showing that we're still his people. All right, he made us, he just built Jake different. Reading on, Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 31, he that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty? You see, Esau been dishonorable. His only saving grace to have women even deal with him was the fact he had money. All right, that's why they have that cultural practice amongst these Edomites called swinging, where they basically two Edomite couple that know each other, they'll be going through it, and then they have a friend, they have a group of friends that are an Edomite couple, and they'll swap out wives or they'll swap out husbands, which is complete wickedness and adultery and disgusting. But they do it because Esau don't got the sauce like that, bro. Women don't want to be around him, they're forced to be around him. All right. And he knows that, and he envies Jake for being able to just naturally attract women even in poverty. You see? So he's basically hating. So back to it.
One said, never bet on black. It's a photo of a white woman with a bruised eye and a black baby sitting on her lap. This ended up getting 15,000 likes.
Yeah, and I wanted to point the 15,000 likes part out because you Jakes need to realize how much Esau still despises you. You think that the men of the Lord out on the highways and the byways, or you think the Hebrew Israelites are just out here just to be screaming? No, bro. We're not doing that. We raise our voices up because we're commanded to cry aloud in spirit, not lift up our voices like a trumpet. And also because you niggas are hard-headed. You don't listen. So the Lord commanded us to do it that way. Second, the contents of what we're saying is true because these are the words of Yahweh Bashmi al-Shai. These Edomites will not stop despising you. The Lord designed them to have a perpetual hatred towards you, whether you're being righteous or wicked. They'll despise you even more when you're righteous, but they won't be able to do as much against you because it's the Lord that has his protection over you. Now, when you're wicked, they may despise you a little less, but the Lord is going to allow them to completely annihilate you when the time comes. It's when these race riots pop off, Jake, the 2/3, they're going to get caught up in it in the worst way. But yeah, this just goes to show you the hatred. Like, look, he posted that it was a complete lie. That thing got 15,000 likes, and you Jakes be talking about, well, what about the white man? Can he be saved? Well, nigga, if you had any sense, you wouldn't want him to be saved because you want him to make it into the kingdom so he can what? So he can lie on you, so he can potentially spit in your food and turn your women against you all over again, just like in the Garden of Eden. Jake, you don't think, bro. One thing the elder Yahshua said once before is Jake, if you allow him, Jake will bring an apartment mentality into the kingdom. You niggas got that homeborn slave mentality, and you got to let that go. And for those of you that don't, it's going to be burnt along. It's going to be burnt along with you right here in Babylon. Now, moving on.
Like, bro, what the here goes another meme they dropped in the comments, basically insinuating that she's going to be a single mom.
Esau's a D1 hater, bro. Look at this shit. Esau, he basically X'd out Jake's face. Like Triple says, Job 9, verse 24, the earth is given to the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? You see? Now, this is just a regular Jake, but the point is the sentiment is the same. When Esau is not doing this, he was basically knocking off the noses of different Jake statues. He was basically destroying our dark images all throughout Europe to hide evidence that we were actually ruling, so that the later generations here in America would think that we were just nothing but slaves. And even right now, Donald Treasy is trying to make it where the Smithsonian takes away all of the evidence of the transatlantic slave trade because the prophet's out here. All right? Because the spirit of the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is bringing out the truth about Deuteronomy 28 and how that literally correlates to the slave ships in the transatlantic slave trade that these Edomites financed. You see, he done basically crossed out Jake's face and his hand. He like, I don't even want your hand around my woman. Well, she ain't your woman now, nigga. Moving on.
Because she, chose a black man. 14,000 likes. Imagine carrying a fetus for 9 months just to end up seeing one of these creatures and then realize that you have to live with this thing for the next 18 plus years. Nightmare. And it's a photo of mixed babies. Like, the crazy thing about this, y'all, is that nobody's forcing these white women to talk to non-white men.
I'll run that back one more time.
These creatures and then realize that you have to live with this thing for the next 18 plus years. Nightmare. And it's a photo of mixed babies.
And just so y'all know, this is where the mystery of this is another aspect of the mystery of the Gentiles that a lot of you Jakes stumble over. The Israelites come in all shapes, shades, and sizes. So let's just say hypothetically, every single one of these babies right here have Israelite fathers. Every single one of these babies, despite how pale they look, they are Israelites. You see? You can kind of tell, and like it's funny, this is the spirit of our people, man. You can kind of tell right here, little man on the right, you can tell that he's a Jake just by his demeanor. That's what we keep trying to tell y'all, man. That's why Esau doesn't want you Jakes touching his women. All right? Because when all else fails, a nation always has their women to deal with. But when a nation of men is at their height, they can deal with the women of any nation. In abundance, they can deal with their own women, and they can deal with other nations' women. But Esau's on the decline. So he already knows that. So you see, his hate doesn't just stop at the Israelite man and the Edomite woman that gets with the Israelite man. No, his hatred extends to the children too. Just to remind y'all, they used to call, these type of children half-breeds and mulattoes and stuff like that, with disgust and hatred and vitriol in their voice. Moving on.
Like, the crazy thing about this, y'all, is that nobody's forcing these white women to talk to non-white men.
Nobody's forcing these white women, so-called white women. Nobody's forcing these so-called white women to talk to so-called non-white men. That's the point. The Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, he has Esau on the decline. And because he's the wicked, he's not going to consider his ways. He's not going to consider that wickedness does not establish a kingdom. All right? Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, he's the one that raises up a kingdom. And based upon the spirit of the individuals who he gives the kingdom to, you see, that determines whether or not the kingdom remains firm or whether it implodes from the inside out. And right now, these Edomites, they have a lot on their plate. They got these other nations they done made enemies out of. Their women don't want nothing to do with them. The list goes on. And their women rejecting them is the same. It basically gives them flashbacks to this. 2 Esdras chapter 3, verse 13. Now, when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them, whose name was Abraham, Him thou lovest, and unto him only thou shootest thy will, and madest an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed. And that's the promise that was given unto Abraham, which he did without a mediator, by the way, which further solidifies how serious the Lord was, because he did it without a mediator, meaning he didn't use a middleman like he did with us, with Moses under the first covenant. And, you know, even like he did with Yahushua with us under the grace period and under the second covenant. But no, he swore by himself, and he gave this a direct promise to Abraham and his seed. Okay. Now, reading on, verse 15, and made us an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed. And unto him thou gavest Isaac, and unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. But what happened? As for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee, meaning he chose Jacob as the chosen nation, holy nation, set apart. That's what it means, choose him to thee. The Lord set apart Jacob unto himself. He's keeping Jacob as his own prized possession. And put by Esau, meaning he cast Esau away. He was never dealing with Esau. And he manifested that in human time when Esau was born, and he had that spirit in him from the womb, that wicked spirit, and he sold his birthright. And because of that, Jacob received the blessing, because the Lord said it before they were born, the elder shall serve the younger. One people is stronger than the other people. Jacob stronger than Esau, the elder. Esau shall serve the younger, Jacob. Because Jacob may be younger in the flesh because he came out after Esau, but Jacob is older in the spirit because we're the first nation. All right. Once more, as for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee and put by Esau. And so Jacob became a great multitude. You see, and that's going to happen all over again. And how's it going to happen? By Jake dealing with our own women and by dealing with the heathen women. And like the elder Malcolm points out, in the kingdom, we're going to be dealing with the best looking Edomite women, like Jake did in this video. You see Jake not talking to no anything looking Edomite women for the most part. Like I would go back to, where is it at? Yeah, like Jake right here. You see? Pretty decent enough looking couple. Jake didn't mess around. He got a decent looking Edomite woman, if she is indeed an Edomite. But the point is, it's going to be like that, even more amplified in the kingdom. Every single dime piece Edomite woman Jake want, he going to get that. Like Elder Malcolm will be saying, like when it comes to that, Esau going to be looking at the pretty ones, like, and then Jake will be like, nah, you can't have that. You going to give Esau the fucking, Esau going to be getting them big ass, them Tammy looking Edomites. He going to be getting them little, the Edomite version of Big Shirley in the kingdom. Them little, them God Bless America Edomite fat joints, them trailer park looking joints. You're not going to get the best top looking Edomite women. And this is just a sign of things to come. He's cooked. And let me jump back to that other point in the video.
Photo of mixed babies. Like, the crazy thing about this, y'all, is that nobody's forcing these white women to talk to non-white men. And just to use black men as a reference, we make up only 6% of the U.S. population. White women, on the other hand, make up 30%. So if these women are willingly choosing to date the minority, something is wrong with y'all.
Yeah, now, once again, like, like it says in this comment, I'm not sure about those numbers, because Esau falsifies the numbers. But, for argument's sake, let's say that those numbers is right, because I think the statistic he just mentioned was about the black men. I'll rewind it back for clarity. Yeah, it said black men make up approximately 6.4% of the total U.S. population, according to the NAACP. For context, this figure is based on the total U.S. population, not just men or a specific age group. Yeah, they can still be lying. Esau, he's the devil. He falsifies stuff. But anyway, and in certain statistics, you got to always see what's their basis. What numbers are they working with? Because sometimes they can say that, but they can also be only including Israelite men that are not arrested or locked up or whatever. I'm not talking about people who have a life sentence. I'm talking about people that's wrongfully arrested that's probably going to get out next week and they've been in jail for a week or a month or something like that. Esau probably is not counting that because he wants Jake to think that they're the minority. But the point is, once again, you are what your father is. And this is another covering cast, which goes back to that skin color lie. Your race is not based upon your skin color. Your race is based upon the seed of your father. That's your ethnic group, your tribe, your nation. All right, that's what nationality is truly based upon. So Esau, with the lie of all this skin tone stuff, he makes it where you believe that, okay, somebody looks like this, they're light skinned, so they're white. No, you got a lot of people amongst the so-called white population that are Jakes, like amongst the Bible Belt. Those are a lot of Israelites. Okay, because Esau is carnal, and because not every single one of these Edomites actually are the elites, they don't understand how genetics actually works the way Yahweh Shah set it up. So if to keep it simple, if a man puts his seed inside of a woman, that child is whatever that father is. So you have a lot of Israelites that have been able to escape detection through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah by the Lord putting the spirit on their father and their heathen mother to get together and make that child. So you got a lot of Israelites walking around that, these real extra cool so-called white people. A good number of them are actually Jakes. The reason why they vibe with you, the reason why they're not on this weak MAGA stuff and all this bigotry and stuff is because they're actually not even Edomites. They're Jakes. They've been raised around Edomites, but they're Israelites. All right, so I'm going to get this last little clip and then I'll close it. The point's been made.
Only 6 wanted to end of mixed babies. Like, women, on the other hand, make up 30%. So if these women are willingly choosing to date the minority, something is wrong with y'all.
Breaking tonight.
Yeah, that's the point. Something's wrong with them. And like the other apostles have been saying, Isaiah 4:1, 7 women shall take hold of one man. And the main point of what the apostle would say was, that goes into this. The Lord made it that way for a reason. The Lord made it where women naturally outnumber men. Why? Because men are designed to have more than one woman. The Lord made it that way. That's how you multiply. Okay, a man can naturally reproduce a lot quicker and more efficiently than a woman. A woman has to go through birthing pains. She's going to be basically pregnant for nearly a year when you round it off. All right, 9 to 10 months, that's nearly a year. Then her body has to recover, I believe, for like a month after that. Like, brothers who had children, they know that. They can fact check that. And then, the postpartum depression and this and that and everything else. All right. And if you're basically taking into account her health and mental well-being and her physical condition and stuff, that means you have to literally let her recharge. You have to let that one woman recharge while you don't deal with her. If mandatory monogamy was actually biblical, if monogamy was biblical, which basically means one woman, okay. But as on the other hand, the Lord deals with polygyny, whereas a man, when he reproduces and he has multiple women, hypothetically speaking, he can get 7 women pregnant within the same, let's say the same week or something, or the same day. Let's say Jake basically smashed 7 women, and in between smashing each woman, he basically washed his flesh with water and everything like that, right? You get each of those 7 women pregnant, that means within 9 to 10 months, you're about to have 7 children, roughly within the same time span. Now, let it be 70. Okay, like I believe it was Gideon. Okay, he had 70 women, if I'm not mistaken, in the scriptures. Let's get that. All right, not trying to drag the point on, but just for clarity's sake, I do believe it was Judges 8. Or was it Judges 9? No, it was Judges 8, Salakia. All right, so the book of Judges. There we go. The Wadi al-Bashmi al-Shah, Judges chapter 8, verse 28, and it reads, something that says 40 years of peace. Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal, which is Gideon's title, that's one of his nicknames, the son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons begotten of his body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. You see, and a concubine typically was a woman of the other nation. So this goes to show you that, look, Israelite men were able to have more than one woman. And this was how we were able to multiply. On top of Jake naturally having that aura, all right, naturally attracting women, the Lord made a format, which is polygyny, which allows us to multiply ourselves a lot quicker. So not only will Jake be a comely people blessed of the Lord when we're in order, but we'll also be able to multiply. There will be a lot of beautiful looking people that have beautiful spirits as well walk on the earth. So basically Esau won't have a chance. Esau is not beating Jake physically, spiritually, and not in the women department at all. All right. So, that was that for that, basically showing that Gideon had 70 sons. That's 73. Okay, that's 3. A score is 20. So 3 times 20, that equals 60. And 10. So plus 10, that makes 70. So how did he have 70 sons begetting of his body? He had multiple women. Okay, whether Gideon had whether he had 70 wives or however many he had. Okay, he could have had however you decided to slice it. He could have had 20 wives and each of them could have had this amount of sons, or he could have had 40 wives and each of them could have had a certain amount of sons, however you want to slice it. But the point is, that's why the Lord made a larger population of women to men, even if they are aligned with those numbers about the so-called black man being 6.4% of the population in the U.S. and so-called white women being 30%. The point is, if Jake lays with any of those women, everything that comes out of her vagina that man put in her, every seed that comes out of her vagina is an Israelite man or woman. Every seed that comes out of her will grow up to be an Israelite man or woman, and Esau knows that. All right.
Tonight, a North Carolina man who allegedly vowed to shoot up black preschoolers has been caught by the FBI.
The suspect is 25-year-old Zachary Newell. Allegedly said he wanted to injure or 20 black children, among other violent and racist threats, in a comment on YouTube.
Now learned the man who police say shot and 3 people in Mount Washington this past weekend has also now died. So 2 of the victims were sisters.
A man sits in jail accused of strangling a woman and slashing her throat. 42-year-old Joshua Anzalone is charged with attempted second-degree murder.
Investigators say he attacked the woman yesterday around 4:30 p.m. at the Royal Inn on North Market Street. She was rushed to the hospital where she remains in critical condition.
Investigators say 16-year-old Desmond Hawley, who was a student at Evergreen High School, was radicalized through an extreme network, but they wouldn't go into detail. Hawley died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound after he allegedly shot and wounded 2 of his classmates. At last check, they are still in the hospital. Their names, though, have not been released.
All of those news stories took place in August of 2025. And I could find countless more, bro. You see in America.
And that's the point right there. I was about to say the same thing he was going to say. Those are just a few examples of how Esau gets down. And he has no accountability. He's dangerous. He's unstable. And he always wants to blame Jake when Jake doesn't even have that nature. When you think school shooter, you immediately think Edomite. Now, in the world, you'll say so-called white person because you don't know the truth. But yeah, Edomite. White means pure, beautiful. They're not that. All right. They're the so-called white man. So-called because they placed that title on themselves in Virginia in 1681. Like Elder Malcolm, he always brings that receipt out. There was no such thing as a white person before that era. And there still is not a such thing as a white person because it's a false title. They are the Edomite. All right. Edom in the Hebrew, Adawam, means red. And that lets you know the Lord, he is perfect in his judgments and he is perfect when he calls the names of things. Okay. Esau typically has that blood that shows forth through his skin, that pinkish complexion. And you have Edomites that look like Jakes because their mothers are Jakes, but the father is an Edomite. Those are the tares amongst the wheat the Lord Yahweh spoke about. All right. The children of the wicked one, hidden amongst the children of the kingdom. But the point is, all right, these Edomites, they have that spirit on them. And it's like they'll wonder why their women aren't attractive. It's like they wonder why their women aren't attracted to them like that. Okay, because Jake may have their flaws, but once again, the Lord gives Jake a balance. Things have to balance out. You may be the type of dude to snore too much or whatever, but your woman still loves you type shit. Or you may be the type of man that you don't like to, I don't know, certain times you don't like to eat steak with fish or something, but your woman still loves you. Esau will be, his only saving grace is he has money, which you need to actually survive when you with a woman and stuff like that. But that's his only saving grace. Outside of that, typically Esau's a weirdo. He's a mo. You can't, if you were an Edomite woman, you probably couldn't trust an Edomite man to actually just hang out with his friends and watch football because they do mo shit amongst each other. They basically go up each other's butt and everything else and then come back and lay with you. And, not every single Edomite woman likes that. We understand that Esau does weird stuff, but, every woman's nature is she wants to feel like she's protected. She wants to be controlled by the man. She wants to be in order under the man that she's dealing with. She wants to feel, women like to feel like a little girl with the men that they with, if that makes sense. Brothers know what I'm saying. All right. They can be grown women, but they want to basically be your princess. They want you to be the head and in charge, but you can't feel protected by a man that's getting bent over by other men. You can't feel protected by a man that wants to lay with children. You can't feel protected by a man that's so emotionally unstable and effeminate that he's basically a master leader. He's basically opening up opening up fire on random people. And then you got to think about it like this, which I always think about. Look at what environment these Edomites are in, that they're known for having school shooters. Look at how demonic these Edomites can be to each other from a young age. Bullying to the point where another Edomite uses that blessing of the sword and just crashes out. So these are things to consider as to the mentality of these Edomites and why Yahweh Bashmiel Shai raised up his servants, the prophets, to let you know what it is. All right? But that's all I have in this epistle. Once again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to our beloved Heavenly Father, and His only begotten Son, our beloved Lord and Savior, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harachak Wadash. Double honor is always to our beloved elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who rule well, who teach well, who we learn the truth from daily, whether you hear forbear. And a sincere citation is always to the rest of the hopeful elected of the nation of Israel, which consists of our sincere elders and Akim of Great Millstone, and the Akim on down that teach the likewise doctrine, and all truth and sincerity with diligence. The speckled bird, Hebrew Israelite foreigner scattered among the heathen, that like the heathen, the sincere Akim of the nation of Israel, that rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai in truth and sincerity, and the sincere Akwath, that listen in silence and meekness, as the scriptures command to do so. Kwame Sharala and Ababa Ball. We're almost out of here. Adawan Ratazar. We got next. Adawan Ratazar. Shema, Yasha Allah, Yahweh, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Achad, Wa Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harachak Wadash, Baba Kusha, Baba Kusha, Baba Kusha, Shema, Tapalatia, Shalach Rayam, Wa Ainashim, Wa Haragim, Wa Ashim, Wa Abadim, Wa Mawakim, Wa Mashapatim, Al Kal Adawamim, Wa Gawayim, Wa Ayabim Nawa, Wa Babal, Wa Babal, Wa Babal, Wa Babal, Aitha, the water, Tamyad, Tawab, Aman. Shabbat Shalom.